Now I know their every move, and every one is my chance.
My wife Clara always said paper meant nothing. Contracts, vows, promises, just ink on dead trees, she'd laugh, waving her manicured hand dismissively. I should have paid attention to that philosophy. Should have realized it applied to our marriage certificate, too. The discovery came on a Tuesday evening in October, the kind of crisp autumn night that makes you believe in fresh starts and second chances. I was Tom Dunning, 42 years old, technical writer for a mid-sized manufacturing company in Cincinnati. Clara was 39, an HR director with perfectly styled blonde hair and a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. We'd been married 14 years, lived in a colonial-style house with a 2-car garage and a mortgage that kept us both working. That night, Clara announced she was going to another girls' night with her sister Monica and their crew, the third one this month. "Don't wait up, honey," she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. New perfume, expensive, the kind that came in small bottles with French names I couldn't pronounce. "Since when do you wear perfume to Kelsey's living room?" I asked, looking up from my laptop where I was editing a manual about industrial safety protocols. Clara's laugh tinkled like wind chimes. "A girl likes to feel pretty, Tom. You wouldn't understand." She kissed my forehead, the kind of kiss you give an elderly relative, and left. Her BMW pulled out of the driveway at exactly 7:30. I watched through the window as her taillights disappeared around the corner. I tried to focus on my work, but something nagged at me. Clara had been different lately. Distant. She'd started going to the gym 5 times a week, bought new clothes, changed her hairstyle. When I complimented her, she'd shrug and say she was working on herself. When I suggested we work on ourselves together, maybe take a vacation or try counseling, she'd change the subject. Around 10 o'clock, I decided to grab a beer from the garage fridge. That's when I saw Clara's gym bag sitting on the workbench. She must have forgotten it in her rush to look pretty for Kelsey's living room. I almost walked past it, should have walked past it. But the bag was unzipped, and something glinted inside. Something that definitely wasn't workout gear. A second phone, a cheap burner phone with a cracked screen protector. My hands shook as I picked it up. The screen lit up, showing dozens of text messages. The contact name was simply G. The most recent message, sent 20 minutes ago, made my stomach drop. "Can't wait to feel you inside me again. Tom's working late as usual." Pathetic. I scrolled up, message after message. Explicit photos, plans to meet, complaints about me, discussions about how long they could keep their affair secret, references to places they'd been together, hotels I'd never seen, restaurants where Clara claimed she was having work dinners. The messages went back 4 months. 4 months of lies, 4 months of girls' nights and work trips, and "I'm too tired tonight, honey." 4 months of me wondering what I'd done wrong, why my wife seemed to be pulling away. One message thread made me physically sick. "Gee, your husband suspect anything?" Clara, "Tom, please. He's so wrapped up in his boring job he wouldn't notice if I brought you home for dinner. I could probably screw you on the kitchen table and he'd ask if we needed more salt." "Gee, harsh. I like it. What's he like in bed?" Clara, "Like watching paint dry. No imagination, no passion, just goes through the motions. You've ruined me for boring married love." G, "Good. You deserve better. You deserve someone who appreciates what he has." Clara, "Someone like you?" G, "Someone exactly like me." I set the phone down carefully, afraid I might hurl it against the garage wall. My vision blurred. 14 years of marriage. 14 years believing we were building something real. And now, reduced to cruel jokes and intimate comparisons with some stranger whose name started with G. But I wasn't done reading. The worst was yet to come. "Monica, how's Operation Tom going?" Clara, "Perfect. He has no idea. Still thinks I'm the devoted wife." Monica, "You sure you want to keep this up? Tom's a good guy." Clara, "Tom's a paycheck and a mortgage cosigner. G's got real money, real estate development. He's taking me to Cabo next month while Tom thinks I'm at that HR conference." Monica, "What if Tom finds out?" Clara, "Then I'll take him for everything in the divorce. His 401k, half the house, spousal support. I've been documenting his emotional unavailability for months. My lawyer says it's a slam dunk." Monica, Clara's sister Monica, who I'd helped through her own divorce 2 years ago, who I'd lent money to when her ex stopped paying child support, who brought her kids to our house every Christmas and called me Uncle Tom. They were all in on it, the whole family. probably laughing about stupid, clueless Tom while they planned Clara's exit strategy. I put the phone back exactly where I found it and walked into the house. Poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat in my chair staring at the wall. The house felt different now. Smaller, like the walls were closing in. Clara came home at 1:30 in the morning, reeking of expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Her hair was messed up despite her attempts to fix it in the car. Her lipstick was gone. "How was girls' night?" I asked from the living room. She jumped, startled. "Tom, you scared me. Why are you still awake?" "Couldn't sleep. How's Kelsey?" "Oh, you know Kelsey. Same drama, different day. Monica sends her love." The lies rolled off her tongue like honey, smooth and sweet and completely artificial. "That's nice. Did you have fun?" "It was fine. I'm exhausted. Going to bed." She started toward the stairs, then paused. "Oh, I might have to travel more for work in the coming months. Budget season, you know. Lots of meetings with other branches." "Of course," I said. "Whatever you need to do." She smiled that perfect practice smile and disappeared upstairs. I heard the shower running 20 minutes later, washing off the evidence of her evening with G. I sat in that chair until dawn, drinking bourbon and thinking. Clara was right about one thing. I was predictable. Boring Tom with his steady job and his technical manuals, and his complete inability to see what was happening in his own marriage. But Clara had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated boring Tom's capacity for learning new skills. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. The next morning, Clara left for work like nothing had happened, kissed my forehead, grabbed her coffee, reminded me she'd be late because of a team-building dinner. I smiled and nodded and told her to have fun. As soon as her car disappeared around the corner, I called in sick to work. First time in 3 years. My boss, Dave Martinez, was concerned. "You sure you're okay, Tom? You never get sick." "Just need a day to handle some personal business," I said. "I'll be back tomorrow." "Take care of yourself, man. And hey, if you need to talk about anything, I'm here." Dave was a good friend, had been for 8 years, ever since he'd been promoted to department manager. He'd been through his own divorce 5 years ago, knew the signs. Maybe he'd suspected something was wrong with Clara and me. Maybe he was just being a good boss. Either way, I appreciated the concern. I spent the morning researching. Private investigators cost money I didn't have, and besides, I needed to be careful. Clara worked in HR. She knew employment law, knew how to document things, knew how to build a case. If she was planning to divorce me and take everything, I needed to be smarter than she expected. First step, find out who G was. I drove to Clara's office building and parked across the street. Felt like a creep, but I needed information. Clara's BMW was in its usual spot. I waited. At noon, she emerged with 2 other women from her department. They walked to a nearby sandwich shop, chatting and laughing. Normal lunch behavior. Nothing suspicious. But at 12:40, as they were walking back, Clara's phone buzzed. She checked it, smiled, and typed a quick response. Then she said something to her coworkers and walked in the opposite direction, toward the parking garage. I followed at a distance, staying in my car. Clara drove downtown to the business district where the expensive condos and upscale restaurants clustered around the riverfront. She parked in front of a glass tower called River's Edge Luxury Residences. A man was waiting for her in the lobby. Tall, well-dressed, silver hair, probably mid-40s. Expensive suit, confident posture. He kissed Clara like he owned her, his hands roaming places that made my stomach churn. I took pictures with my phone. Not great quality from across the street, but good enough to confirm what I already knew. They disappeared into the elevator together. I waited in my car for an hour and 15 minutes before Clara emerged, smoothing her skirt and checking her reflection in the lobby windows. Her lunch break had lasted 2 hours. The man didn't come down with her. He lived there then, or at least had regular access to a unit. I followed Clara back to her office, then drove home to process what I'd learned. G lived or worked in River's Edge. He was older, successful-looking, the kind of man who could afford downtown luxury condos and long lunch breaks. That evening, Clara was unusually affectionate, cooked my favorite dinner, asked about my day, even suggested we watch a movie together. The guilt was eating at her, or maybe she was overcompensating. Either way, it made me sick. "You seem happy today," I said as we sat on the couch, her head on my shoulder. "Just had a good day at work. Sometimes everything clicks, you know?" "I know exactly what you mean." The next day, I called in sick again. This time, I went to the county clerk's office and did some research. River's Edge had been built 3 years ago by Nielsen Development Group. The company was owned by Grant Nielsen, age 44, married to Julia Nielsen, 2 children. Grant Nielsen, G. A quick internet search revealed more. Grant was a successful real estate developer, specializing in luxury residential projects. His company had built half the upscale housing in Cincinnati's downtown corridor. His personal net worth was estimated at $12 million. His wife, Julia, was a pediatrician. Beautiful, accomplished, involved in charity work. Their kids played soccer and took piano lessons. Perfect family, at least on paper. I found Grant's business address and drove by. Nielsen Development occupied the top 2 floors of a sleek office building. Grant's personal parking spot held a black Porsche Macan. License plate, Nielsen 1. Subtle. That afternoon, I did something I'd never imagined myself doing. I went to an electronics store and bought a small GPS tracker, the kind parents use to monitor teenage drivers. $200 I couldn't really afford, but cheaper than a private investigator. I attached it to Clara's BMW while she was at her Thursday night yoga class. Took me 5 minutes and a YouTube tutorial to figure out the magnetic mount. The tracker was small enough to hide under the rear bumper, invisible unless you knew where to look. The next week, I watched Clara's movements on my phone app. Work, gym, grocery store, home. Normal patterns, except for Tuesday and Friday afternoons, when she made detours to River's Edge. But the real revelation came on Saturday morning. Clara announced she was going shopping with Monica. Sister bonding time. She'd be gone most of the day. According to the GPS, Clara drove straight to Grant's office building. She was there for 3 hours. I drove downtown and parked where I could see the building entrance. At 2:30, Clara and Grant emerged together. They walked to his Porsche, laughing and holding hands like teenagers. He opened her door, kissed her neck as she got in. They drove to an expensive restaurant in the suburbs, the kind of place with valet parking and cloth napkins. Through the window, I watched them share an intimate lunch. Grant fed Clara bites of his dessert. She laughed at everything he said. They looked like a couple celebrating an anniversary. Meanwhile, I sat in my 12-year-old Honda eating a gas station sandwich and taking pictures that would probably hold up in divorce court. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how happy Clara looked. Genuinely, radiantly happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. Maybe ever. With Grant, she was animated, flirtatious, alive. With me, she was going through the motions. That night, Clara came home with shopping bags from expensive stores. New clothes, new jewelry, a purse that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Monica has great taste, she said, showing off her purchases. She helped me pick everything out. Monica's always been stylish, I agreed. Did you have lunch somewhere nice? Just grabbed something at the mall food court. You know how it is when you're shopping all day. The lies were getting easier for her, more elaborate. She was building an entire alternate reality where Monica existed as her alibi and I existed as the fool who believed everything. But I was learning too, learning to smile and nod and ask just enough questions to seem interested without seeming suspicious. Learning to hide my anger behind the mask of boring, predictable Tom. Sunday morning, Clara announced she needed to run errands. The GPS showed her going to Grant's condo building. She was there for 4 hours. When she came home, she was glowing, satisfied. She hummed while she made dinner, danced a little while she set the table. The afterglow of good closeness with her lover. You seem really happy lately, I said over dinner. I've been working on myself, like I told you. Exercise, self-care, spending time with people who appreciate me. People like Monica? People like Monica, she confirmed, meeting my eyes without flinching. That night, lying in bed next to my wife, listening to her breathe, I made a decision. Clara thought she was playing chess while I played checkers. She thought she had all the information while I stumbled around in the dark. Time to show her what boring Tom had learned about strategy. Monday morning, I went back to work. Dave took one look at me and frowned. You look like heck, Tom. Everything okay at home? We were alone in his office, reviewing quarterly reports. Dave had always been straight with me, and I needed an ally. Claire's having an affair, I said quietly. Dave set down his coffee cup. Crap, you sure? Completely sure. 4 months, maybe longer. Some real estate developer with more money than sense. What are you going to do? I'm working on it. But I need to be smart. Clara's in HR. She knows how to build cases against people. She's probably been documenting reasons to divorce me for months. Dave nodded slowly. My ex did the same thing. Kept a journal of every argument, every time I was late from work, every time I forgot to take out the trash. Made it look like I was an absent, neglectful husband. Exactly. So I need to be careful. Can't do anything stupid or illegal. What do you need from me? I'd hoped he'd ask. Character witness, if it comes to that. Someone who can testify that I'm a decent employee, reliable, not the deadbeat husband Clara's going to paint me as. You got it. Anything else? Maybe some flexibility with my schedule while I figure this out. I might need to leave early or come in late sometimes. Done. Just keep me in the loop, okay? Don't do anything that's going to get you in trouble. That afternoon, I started phase 2 of my investigation. I needed to know more about Grant Nielsen, his habits, his weaknesses, his vulnerabilities. I spent my lunch break at the downtown library, using their computers to research Grant's business dealings. Public records showed Nielsen Development had been involved in several controversial projects: luxury condos that displaced low-income families, commercial developments that required rezoning fights, the kind of business that made enemies. More interesting were the court records. Grant had been sued twice in the past 5 years, once by a contractor who claimed Grant had refused to pay for completed work, once by a group of homeowners who said Grant's construction had damaged their property values. Both cases had been settled out of court. Grant played hardball in business. He was used to getting his way, used to people backing down when he applied pressure. But he'd never dealt with someone like me, someone with nothing left to lose. That evening, I started documenting everything. Every lie Clara told, every time she claimed to be somewhere she wasn't, every unexplained expense on our joint credit card. I opened a separate bank account and started moving small amounts of money. Not enough for Clara to notice, but enough to give me options. I also started recording conversations. Ohio was a one-party consent state, meaning I could legally record any conversation I was part of. I bought a small digital recorder and started carrying it everywhere. The first useful recording came 3 days later. Clara was on the phone with Monica, thinking I was in the shower. But I was actually standing in the hallway, listening. He's so clueless, Monica. Yesterday, he asked if I wanted to plan a vacation for our anniversary. Our anniversary, can you believe it? What did you tell him? That I'd think about it. Meanwhile, Grant's taking me to Chicago next weekend. First-class flights, 5-star hotel, the works. What if Tom finds out? How would he find out? I told him I have that conference in Columbus. He never checks up on me, never asks for details. He just accepts whatever I tell him. Don't you feel a little bad? Tom's a good guy. Tom's a good roommate. Grant's a good man. There's a difference. The recorder captured every word. Clara's dismissive tone, her casual cruelty, her complete lack of remorse. It was evidence, but it was also motivation, fuel for the fire that was building inside me. Friday evening, Clara made her announcement about the Columbus conference. She'd be gone all weekend, leaving Saturday morning, back Sunday night. Important sessions on workplace harassment and discrimination law. Sounds educational, I said. Which hotel are you staying at? The Marriott downtown. Nothing fancy, but it's close to the convention center. I nodded and wished her a good trip. Kissed her goodbye Saturday morning like the devoted husband I was supposed to be. Then I drove to the airport. Clara's BMW was in the long-term parking garage. I waited in my car until I saw her walking toward the terminal pulling a small suitcase. She was dressed to end. Black dress, high heels, jewelry I'd never seen before. Not exactly conference attire. 20 minutes later, Grant Nielsen emerged from a black town car. Expensive suit, confident stride, the walk of a man who owned the world. He met Clara at the security checkpoint. Even from a distance, I could see the passion in their embrace. I took pictures of everything. The parking garage timestamp showing when Clara arrived. Grant's arrival. Their meeting. Their walk toward the gates, hand in hand like honeymooners. Then I drove home and called the Marriott in Columbus. I'm trying to reach my wife, Clara Dunning. She should be checking in for the HR conference today. I'm sorry, sir. We don't have a reservation under that name. Could you check the conference attendee list? There's no HR conference scheduled at our hotel this weekend, sir. Perfect. Clara had lied about everything, the conference, the hotel, the city. She was probably in Chicago with Grant right now, living it up on his dime while her husband sat at home like a fool. But I wasn't sitting at home. I was working. I spent Saturday researching Grant's wife, Julia. She was active on social media, posting pictures of their family life. Recent posts showed her at their kids' soccer games, at charity fundraisers, at medical conferences. She looked happy, successful, completely unaware that her husband was screwing my wife in expensive hotel rooms. Julia deserved to know the truth. But timing was everything. I needed to choose the right moment, the right approach. One chance to destroy Grant's perfect life, just like he'd destroyed mine. Sunday evening, Clara returned from her fictional conference. She was tan, relaxed, glowing with satisfaction. She brought me a t-shirt from a Columbus gift shop and told me all about the sessions she'd attended. Learned a lot about documentation and evidence collection, she said with a straight face. It's amazing how much proof you need to build a solid case against someone. I bet it is, I said. Sounds like you're getting really good at that. She smiled and kissed my cheek. Practice makes perfect. That night, as Clara slept beside me, probably dreaming about Grant, I lay awake planning my next move. Clara thought she was building a case against me. She had no idea I was building one against her, and unlike Clara's case, mine was built on truth. 2 weeks later, I was ready to make my move. I had photographs, recordings, GPS data, financial records, and witness testimony. More importantly, I had a plan. The first step was confronting Grant directly. Not to threaten him or start a fight, but to let him know the game had changed. That boring Tom wasn't as clueless as everyone thought. I waited outside Grant's office building on a Tuesday morning, parked where I could see his reserved parking spot. The black Porsche arrived at 8:15, right on schedule. Grant was a creature of habit, which made him predictable. I followed him into the building lobby. He was checking his phone, probably reading messages from Clara when I approached. Grant Nielsen? He looked up, annoyed at the interruption. Yes? Tom Dunning, Clara's husband. The color drained from his face. For a moment, he looked like he might run. Then his composure returned, the confident businessman taking control. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. River's Edge Luxury Residences, Unit 2847, Tuesday and Friday afternoons. Last weekend's trip to Chicago. Should I continue? Grant glanced around the lobby, checking for witnesses. What do you want? To talk. 5 minutes of your time. Unless you'd prefer I have this conversation with your wife, Julia. That got his attention. Grant's jaw tightened, but he nodded toward the elevator. My office. 5 minutes? We rode up in silence. Grant's office was exactly what I'd expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, photographs of his developments covering the walls. The desk was the size of my kitchen table. Sit, Grant said, settling into his leather chair like a king on his throne. I remained standing. I know about the affair. Prove it. I pulled out my phone and showed him a photograph. Clara and Grant kissing in the restaurant parking lot, her hand on his chest, his fingers tangled in her hair. Grant barely glanced at it. Photoshop. I showed him another. Grant opening Clara's car door, his hand on her A. Lucky timing. I played him an audio recording. Clara's voice, clear and unmistakable. Grant's taking me to Chicago next weekend. First-class flights, 5-star hotel, the works. Grant's confident mask slipped slightly. What do you want? Money? I want you to end it. Or what? Or I show these to Julia, along with the credit card records showing hotel charges in Chicago. The GPS data proving Clara was at your condo when she claimed to be shopping with her sister. The phone record showing 300 text messages between you two in the past month. Grant leaned back in his chair, studying me like I was a problem to be solved. Clara said you were pathetic, a pushover who'd never fight for anything. Clara says a lot of things. Most of them are lies. She also said you'd never leave her, that you're too comfortable, too dependent. Is that true, Tom? The question hit harder than I'd expected. What's true is that you're destroying 2 marriages. Your wife seems like a decent person. She deserves better than a cheating husband. Julia and I have an understanding. Does she understand you're screwing my wife? Grant's composure cracked. He stood up, his hands flat on the desk. Watch your mouth. Or what? You'll have me thrown out of your building? Go ahead. I've got copies of everything stored in 3 different places. If something happens to me, Julia gets a very interesting package in the mail. We stared at each other across the desk. Grant was used to intimidating people, but I had nothing left to lose. That made me dangerous in a way he couldn't understand. End it, I repeated. Today. Or everyone in your perfect life learns the truth. Grant sat back down. And if I do, what's your guarantee you won't go to Julia anyway? You don't get guarantees. You get a chance to clean up your own mess before I clean it up for you. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and Grant, Clara's using you. She's not leaving me for love. She's leaving me for money. The minute she finds someone richer, you'll be yesterday's news. I left him sitting at his expensive desk, staring out his floor-to-ceiling windows at the city he thought he owned. That evening, Clara was distant. She picked at her dinner, checked her phone constantly, seemed distracted. Around 8 o'clock, her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and declined the call. It rang again 5 minutes later. Again, she declined. The third time I said, "Maybe you should answer it. Might be important." "It's just work stuff. I'll deal with it tomorrow." But I could see the stress in her face, the tension in her shoulders. Grant had called her, probably told her about our meeting. The secret was out, and Clara was scrambling to figure out her next move. She went to bed early, claiming a headache. I heard her whispering on the phone in the bathroom, probably trying to reach Grant, planning damage control. The next morning, Clara announced she needed to run errands before work. The GPS showed her going straight to Grant's building. She was there for 40 minutes. When she came home that evening, she was different. Cold, calculating, like she'd made a decision. "Tom, we need to talk." We sat in the living room, facing each other across the coffee table like negotiators. "I think we should consider counseling," Clara said. "Our marriage has been struggling lately." "Has it?" "You know it has. We've grown apart. We want different things. Maybe a professional can help us figure out if this is worth saving." It was a trap. Clara was building her case, creating a paper trail showing she'd tried to save the marriage. When she filed for divorce, she'd point to counseling as proof that I was uncooperative, unwilling to work on our relationship. "What kind of different things do we want?" I asked. "I want passion, adventure, someone who appreciates me. And I don't? When's the last time you surprised me, Tom? When's the last time you planned something romantic? When's the last time you looked at me like you couldn't live without me?" The questions stung because they were partly true. I had gotten comfortable. I had taken Clara for granted, but that didn't justify what she'd done. "When's the last time you gave me a reason to?" I asked quietly. Clara's eyes flashed. "There it is. It's my fault you stopped trying." I didn't say that. "You didn't have to. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Tom. You've checked out of this marriage. You go through the motions, but your heart isn't in it." "Where's your heart, Clara?" The question hung in the air between us. For a moment, Clara looked like she might tell the truth. Then the mask slipped back into place. "I'm trying to figure that out. That's why I think we need help." "Okay," I said. "Let's try counseling." Clara looked surprised. "Really?" "Really, but I have one condition." "What?" "Complete honesty. No more secrets, no more lies. If we're going to work on this marriage, we both need to put everything on the table." Clara's smile was brittle. "Of course, complete honesty." But we both knew she was lying. Dr. Sarah Chen had been a marriage counselor for 15 years. Her office was designed to be calming. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs, tissues strategically placed on every surface. She was good at her job, which meant she was good at spotting lies. Our first session was scheduled for Thursday evening. Clara arrived looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect outfit. She was playing the role of the devoted wife trying to save her marriage. "Why don't you both tell me what brings you here?" Dr. Chen asked after the introductions. Clara went first. "We've been married 14 years, and lately it feels like we're roommates instead of spouses. Tom works long hours, I work long hours, and we've just drifted apart. I love him, but I'm not sure we're in love anymore." It was a masterful performance. Just enough vulnerability to seem genuine. Just enough blame to plant seeds of doubt about my commitment. "Tom, how do you see things?" "I think Clara's been unhappy for a while," I said carefully. "I've tried to address it, but she keeps telling me everything's fine. I'm hoping this process will help us communicate better." Dr. Chen made notes. "Clara, when you say you've drifted apart, can you give me some specific examples?" "Tom never surprises me anymore. Never plans dates or romantic gestures. He comes home, eats dinner, works on his laptop, watches TV, goes to bed. Same routine every day." "And how does that make you feel?" "Invisible. Like I'm just part of the furniture." I wanted to laugh. Clara felt invisible while she was sneaking around with Grant, lying about her whereabouts, planning her escape strategy. But I played my part. "I didn't realize you felt that way," I said. "I thought you appreciated stability." "Stability and stagnation aren't the same thing, Tom." Dr. Chen turned to me. "How do you respond to that?" "I think Clara's right that I got comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. But I also think marriage requires work from both people. I can't read her mind. If she needs something from me, she has to tell me." Have you told him what you need, Clara? Clara shifted in her chair. I've tried, but Tom doesn't really listen. He hears the words, but he doesn't understand what I'm saying. Can you give me an example? Last month, I mentioned wanting to take a vacation, just the two of us, somewhere romantic. Tom said we couldn't afford it right now. Maybe next year. End of discussion. That was news to me. Clara had never mentioned a vacation, but I couldn't contradict her without looking defensive. Tom, do you remember this conversation? I remember Clara mentioning travel, but not in the context she's describing. I thought she was talking about visiting her sister. Clara's eyes narrowed slightly. See? This is what I mean. You don't really listen. Dr. Chen made more notes. I'm hearing some communication issues. Clara, you feel unheard and unappreciated. Tom, you feel like you're getting mixed messages. Does that sound accurate? We both nodded. For homework this week, I want you both to practice active listening. Clara, when you need something from Tom, be specific and direct. Tom, when Clara speaks, repeat back what you heard to make sure you understood correctly. As we left the office, Clara seemed pleased with how the session had gone. She'd established herself as the neglected wife and me as the inattentive husband. Dr. Chen would probably recommend individual sessions next, giving Clara more opportunities to build her case, but I had homework of my own to do. That weekend, while Clara was at another girls' night, I visited Grant's neighborhood. He lived in an exclusive subdivision called Millfield Estates, where the houses started at $2 million, and the homeowners association had rules about grass height. Grant's house was a monument to success. Stone and glass, perfectly manicured lawn, 3-car garage with the doors open to display his collection, the Porsche, a vintage Corvette, and a BMW SUV that probably belonged to Julia. I parked down the street and watched. At 6:30, Julia arrived home from what looked like a medical conference. She was carrying a briefcase and wearing professional attire. At 7, 2 kids burst out of the house, soccer uniforms and equipment bags in tow. Julia loaded them into the BMW and drove off. Grant emerged from the house 20 minutes later. Instead of following his family to the soccer game, he got into the Porsche and drove toward downtown, toward Clara. I followed at a distance. Grant picked Clara up at a shopping center parking lot, probably where she'd told Monica she was meeting her. They drove to an expensive steakhouse in the suburbs, the kind of place where dinner for 2 cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. I sat in my car across the street, watching them through the restaurant windows. They were celebrating something. Champagne, intimate conversation, Grant holding Clara's hand across the table. They looked like lovers planning their future together. Meanwhile, Julia was at her kids' soccer game, playing the role of supportive mother, while her husband played house with my wife. I took pictures of everything. Grant's car in the restaurant parking lot, Clara getting into the passenger seat, their table by the window, Clara laughing at something Grant said. But the real breakthrough came when they left the restaurant. Instead of dropping Clara back at the shopping center, Grant drove to a hotel. Not his usual downtown condo, a different hotel, more discreet, the kind of place that catered to business travelers and people who valued privacy. They were inside for 3 hours. When they emerged, Clara looked satisfied and disheveled. Grant looked smug, like a man who'd gotten exactly what he wanted. He drove Clara back to her car, kissed her goodbye like they were a married couple, and headed home to his actual family. I followed Clara home, staying far enough back to avoid detection. She arrived 20 minutes before I did, which gave her time to shower and change clothes. When I walked in, she was in her pajamas, reading a book in bed. "How was your evening?" she asked without looking up. "Quiet. Watched some TV, caught up on work. How was girls' night?" "Good. We went to that new wine bar downtown. Monica's thinking about dating again." More lies, delivered with the casual ease of someone who'd had plenty of practice. "That's nice. Anyone in particular?" "Just someone from work. It's still early." I nodded and went to brush my teeth. In the bathroom mirror, I looked like a stranger to myself. The face staring back was harder than it had been 6 months ago, more calculating. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, but someone I thought I might need to be. Our second counseling session was more of the same. Clara played the frustrated wife, I played the confused husband, and Dr. Chen tried to find common ground that didn't exist. "Have you both been practicing the active listening techniques we discussed?" "I've tried," Clara said, "but Tom still seems distracted, like his mind is somewhere else." "Tom, how do you respond to that?" "I think we're both distracted lately. Clara's been working a lot of extra hours, traveling more. It's hard to connect when we're barely in the same room." "Clara, is work stress affecting your marriage?" "Maybe." I've been taking on more responsibility, which means longer days and some travel. But that's temporary. What kind of travel? Conferences, training sessions, meetings with other branches, HR stuff? Dr. Chen made notes. How does Tom feel about your increased work demands? I support Clara's career, I said, but I do miss spending time together. Have you communicated that to Clara? I've tried, but she says work has to come first right now. Clara shot me a look. That's not exactly what I said. What did you say? I said this project has a deadline, and once it's finished, things will go back to normal. What project is that? Dr. Chen asked. Clara hesitated for just a moment. We're implementing a new HR system company-wide. It requires coordination with all our locations. Another lie delivered smoothly. Clara was good at this, but she was also getting careless, creating details that could be verified. After the session, I did exactly that. I called Clara's office the next day, pretending to be a vendor interested in HR software solutions. I understand you're implementing a new system, I told the receptionist. Could you connect me with someone involved in that project? I'm not aware of any new HR system implementation. Let me transfer you to our IT department. The IT manager was equally confused. We're not implementing any new HR systems. Our current software is only 2 years old. Strike two for Clara's credibility. But I was just getting started. That evening, Clara announced another business trip. This one to Louisville. 3 days of meetings with the regional management team. Which hotel? I asked casually. The Galt House, right downtown. I called the Galt House the next morning. No reservation under Clara Dunning, no regional management meetings scheduled. But I already knew where Clara was really going. The GPS tracker showed her at Grant's downtown condo, probably planning their next romantic getaway. It was time to accelerate my timeline. I'd been patient for months, gathering evidence, building my case, playing the role of oblivious husband. But patience had its limits, and I'd reached mine. Clara left for her fictional Louisville trip on a Wednesday morning. According to the GPS, she drove straight to Grant's office building and stayed there for 2 hours. Then they both disappeared, probably to the airport for another romantic weekend funded by Grant's real estate fortune. While they were gone, I made my move. First stop, Julia Nielsen's medical practice. Dr. Julia Nielsen worked at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, one of the most respected pediatric facilities in the region. Her office was in a professional building adjacent to the main hospital, and her schedule was posted online. She had a break between appointments at 2 o'clock. I waited in the parking garage until I saw her walking to her car, a silver BMW sedan with a soccer mom bumper sticker and a parking pass for the kids' school. Dr. Nielsen? She turned, keys in her hand, looking slightly annoyed at the interruption. Julia was prettier in person than in her photos. Mid-40s, blonde hair pulled back in a professional style. Intelligent eyes behind designer glasses. Yes, my name is Tom Dunning. I need to talk to you about your husband. Her expression shifted from annoyance to concern. Is Grant okay? Has something happened? Grant's fine, but there's something you need to know. Julia glanced around the parking garage, checking for witnesses. What kind of something? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photograph of Grant and Clara kissing in the restaurant parking lot. Julia stared at the screen for a long moment, her face going pale. Who is she? My wife, Clara Dunning. Julia's hands shook as she handed the phone back. How long? At least 4 months, probably longer. Are you sure this isn't some kind of mistake or blackmail attempt? I showed her more photos. Grant opening Clara's car door. Clara getting into Grant's Porsche. Grant and Clara entering the hotel together. I have recordings too. GPS data showing when my wife claims to be at work, but she's actually at your husband's condo. Credit card records from their trips together. Julia leaned against her car, looking like she might be sick. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just thought you deserved to know the truth. Why? What's in it for you? Grant destroyed my marriage. I'm returning the favor. Julia was quiet for a long time, staring at the concrete floor of the parking garage. When she looked up, her eyes were hard. Send me everything. Photos, recordings, whatever proof you have. Are you sure? I'm sure. My email is julia.nielsen.md@gmail.com. I sent the files from my phone while she waited. Julia's phone chimed with each incoming message. There's more, I said. Grant told me you two have an understanding about his affairs. Is that true? Julia's laugh was bitter. Grant tells everyone that. It makes him feel better about being a cheating bastard. The truth is, I suspected, but never had proof. Now I do. What are you going to do? What any smart woman would do. Protect myself and my children. Julia got into her BMW and drove away, leaving me standing in the parking garage. I felt a moment of guilt. I just destroyed a family, shattered the illusion of a perfect marriage, turned 2 kids' lives upside down. But Grant had done the same thing to me first. My next stop was Clara's office. I didn't go inside. Too risky, too many people who knew me. Instead, I waited in the parking lot until 5 o'clock when Clara's coworkers started leaving for the day. I recognized Stephanie Walsh from Clara's Christmas parties. She was Clara's closest friend at work, the person Clara confided in about everything. If anyone knew about the affair, it would be Stephanie. Stephanie? Tom Dunning, Clara's husband? Stephanie looked uncomfortable, like she'd been caught doing something wrong. "Oh, hi, Tom. Clara's not here. She's in Louisville this week." "Actually, she's not. She's in Chicago with her boyfriend." Stephanie's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about. Grant Nielsen, real estate developer. They've been having an affair for months, and Clara's been using fake business trips to cover it up." "Tom, I really can't." "You've been helping her, haven't you? Covering for her when she leaves work early, backing up her lies about conferences and meetings." Stephanie looked around the parking lot, making sure no one could overhear. "Clara said you two were having problems, that you'd grown apart. Did she mention she was planning to divorce me and take everything I have?" "She said you might not be compatible anymore." "Did she ask you to lie to HR about her attendance? About these fake business trips?" Stephanie's silence was answer enough. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "Clara's affair is about to become public knowledge. When HR starts investigating her fake travel claims and unauthorized absences, they're going to ask you questions. I suggest you tell the truth." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm giving you advice. Clara's been using you to cover up her crimes. When this blows up, and it will blow up, you don't want to be collateral damage." I left Stephanie standing in the parking lot, probably calling Clara to warn her that the walls were closing in. But Clara's phone was turned off. She was too busy enjoying her romantic getaway with Grant to worry about the chaos building back home. Thursday evening, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Grant's number. "Tom, we need to talk." "I'm listening." "Julia knows. She confronted me an hour ago with photos, recordings, everything. She's filing for divorce." "That's unfortunate." "You son of a witch. You destroyed my marriage. You destroyed mine first. I just evened the score." "This isn't over." "Yes, it is. You're about to lose half your assets, your kids, and your reputation. Clara's about to lose her job and her meal ticket. I'd say we're even." Grant hung up. 20 minutes later, Clara called from Chicago. "Tom, what the heck did you do?" I told the truth, novel concept, I know. Grant's wife is filing for divorce. She has photos of us together. Sounds like a personal problem. This affects me too. If Julia goes public with this, it could ruin my career. Should have thought of that before you started screwing a married man. We need to talk when I get home. No, we don't. We need to talk to lawyers. I hung up and turned off my phone. Let Clara stew in her own mess for a while. Friday morning, I went to work as usual. Dave took one look at me and grinned. "You look different. Better. Did you finally dump that cheating wife?" "Working on it." "Good for you. Life's too short to waste on people who don't appreciate what they have." Around noon, my phone started buzzing with text messages. Clara was on her way home, demanding to know what I'd done, threatening to make me pay for destroying everything. But the most interesting message came from an unknown number. "This is Julia Nielsen. Grant moved out this morning. I wanted to thank you for giving me the truth. My lawyer says I have an excellent case." I smiled and deleted the message. Clara's BMW pulled into our driveway at 3:30 in the afternoon. She stormed into the house like a hurricane, dropping her suitcase in the hallway and marching into the living room where I was waiting. "You bastard," she said. "You vindictive, petty bastard." "Hello to you too, sweetheart. How was Chicago?" "Don't play dumb with me. You went to Julia, didn't you? Showed her photos, told her about Grant and me." "I did." "Why? What did you hope to accomplish? Justice? Honesty? Pick your favorite?" Clara paced around the room like a caged animal. "You've ruined everything. Grant's marriage, his relationship with his kids, my job." "Your job?" "HR called this morning. Someone reported my unauthorized absences and fake travel claims. I'm under investigation." "Imagine that." "This is all your fault." My fault? I'm not the one who decided to have an affair. I'm not the one who lied about business trips and conferences. I'm not the one who spent 4 months planning to destroy our marriage. Clara stopped pacing and stared at me. How long have you known? Long enough to document everything. The hotels, the restaurants, the secret phone, the lies you told our counselor. All of it. What do you want, Tom? Money? The house? What's your price for keeping quiet? I don't want your silence. I want a divorce. Clara laughed, but there was no humor in it. Fine, but you won't get anything. I'll make sure of that. Actually, Clara, I think you'll find the situation is reversed. I handed her a manila folder. Inside were copies of everything: photos, recordings, GPS data, financial records showing her unauthorized spending on the joint credit cards. Clara flipped through the documents, her face growing paler with each page. Ohio is a no-fault divorce state, I said conversationally. But adultery can still affect asset division and spousal support, especially when it's accompanied by financial fraud and deception. You can't prove fraud. Hotel charges on our joint credit card for trips you claimed were business expenses. That's fraud, Clara. Theft, actually, since you use marital assets to fund your affair. Clara sank into the couch, still clutching the folder. What do you want? I want you out of my house. Tonight. I want you to sign a fair divorce agreement, and I want you to stop lying about everything. And if I don't, then I send copies of everything to your boss, your family, your friends, and anyone else who might be interested. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who Clara Dunning really is. Clara was quiet for a long time, reading through the evidence of her own betrayal. When she looked up, her eyes were filled with tears. I never meant for it to happen this way. Yes, you did. You planned every bit of it. The fake conferences, the secret phone, the lies to our counselor. You wanted to have your affair and your divorce too. I was unhappy, Tom. We both were. Then you should have talked to me, or left me honestly. Instead, you chose to cheat and lie and steal. Clara wiped her eyes, smearing her perfect makeup. What happens now? Now you pack your things and leave. Tomorrow, we start the divorce process. If you cooperate, this stays between us. If you fight me, everyone learns the truth. Clara stood up slowly like an old woman. I'll need a few days to find a place to stay. You can stay with Monica or Grant or one of your other friends who helped you cover this up. Tom, please. No, you made your choices, Clara. Now you get to live with them. Clara went upstairs to pack. I sat in the living room listening to her moving around, opening drawers, closing suitcases, the sounds of a marriage ending. An hour later, she came downstairs with 2 suitcases and a box of personal items. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of her own lies. I'll be back for the rest of my things. That's fine. Just call first. Clara paused at the door. For what it's worth, I really did love you once. I know, that's what makes this so sad. She left without another word. I watched from the window as she loaded her car and drove away, probably to Monica's house or maybe to a hotel. It didn't matter anymore. The house felt different with Clara gone. Quieter, but also lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted from the walls themselves. I poured myself a bourbon and sat in my chair, the same chair where I'd planned my revenge months ago. The plan had worked better than I'd hoped. Grant's marriage was over, his reputation damaged. Clara had lost her job and her meal ticket. Justice had been served. But as I sat there in the quiet house, I realized something I hadn't expected. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt empty. Revenge, it turned out, was a lot like Clara's affairs. It felt good in the moment, but it left you hollow afterward. The phone rang, interrupting my brooding. Dave's name appeared on the caller ID. Hey, Tom, just checking in. You okay? Clara moved out today. Good for you. You want to grab dinner? Celebrate your freedom? I looked around the empty house, at the spaces where Clara's things used to be. Yeah, that sounds good. Great. There's this new place downtown, supposed to have great steaks. I'll pick you up in an hour. Dave, thanks for everything. That's what friends are for, brother. After I hung up, I went upstairs to change clothes. In the bedroom, Clara's perfume still lingered in the air. Her side of the closet was empty except for a few wire hangers swaying slightly in the breeze from the air conditioning. On her nightstand, she'd left behind a small framed photo of us from our honeymoon. We looked so young, so happy, so sure that we'd figured out the secret to lasting love. I picked up the photo and studied our faces. Had we ever really been happy? Or had we just been good at pretending? Had Clara always been capable of the lies and betrayal, or had I driven her to it somehow? The questions didn't have answers, and I was tired of asking them. I put the photo in the drawer and went downstairs to wait for Dave. Tomorrow, I'd start rebuilding my life. Tonight, I'd have dinner with a friend and try to remember what it felt like to be happy. Clara was right about one thing. Paper meant nothing. Marriage certificates, divorce decrees, evidence folders full of betrayal and lies. In the end, they were just documents. What mattered was what you did with the life you had left, and I intended to do better.